This episode is made possible by Badlands Pets. As you all know, Mojo, my precious baby, is the reason why I found love in the first place. He made me feel love again. So I would do anything to ensure his health and longevity. And actress Katherine Heigl and I have that in common. She's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to improve any dog's health, and that's their food. So fortunately, she found that just by adding a few special superfoods to her dog's food, she saw huge transformations in their health. So she's made a 20-minute video explaining step-by-step how anyone can do the same thing to see incredible changes in their dog's health. I've definitely re-looked at what I'm feeding Mojo and making sure that, hey, he only has one life to live, and I want to make sure it's the best damn life. So if you want to keep your dog healthy and happy, go to badlandsfood.com/dateable and watch Catherine's video right now. Again, that's badlandsfood.com/dateable.
I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th, or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
The Dateable podcast is an insider's look into modern dating that the Huffington Post calls one of the top 10 podcasts about love and sex. On each episode, we'll talk to real daters about everything from sex parties to sex droughts, date fails to diaper fetishes, and first moves to first loves. I'm your host, Yue Xu, former dating coach turned dating sociologist. You'll also hear from my co-host and producer, Julie Krafchick, as we explore this crazy dateable world. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating where we dig into the whys of people's behavior when it comes to dating, including your own behavior. Every week, we're like, this was an eventful week. This was an eventful week. This week was not that eventful.
Yes, thank God. That's good. I feel like we got to a point in this whole cycle that we're like, you know what? We can maybe do our intro not as close, like to the day that we put out the episode, because things aren't changing as fast. We've stabilized. And then like the last couple of weeks, we're like, nope, we got to bring it in again. So it's nice. It's nice when things aren't going crazy in the world.
I had an epiphany, Julie, and I'll just tell you what happened this past week. It's related to Stop Asian Hate hashtag. If you're on YouTube, you can see it right behind me. Just having a conversation with a few friends, and we're talking about big brands and whether they should put out a message on recognizing what's been happening in the U.S. and in the world with all the hate crimes. And some brands feel like it's not in their place. They should be more uplifting, positive. I thought about this quite hard about it because I thought back during the elections, you were on TikTok and you were looking at the other political party.
Yep.
And you were then fed all this information that was supporting the opposite political views and how surprised you were by it. And I thought about the same thing where we live in our own echo chambers. So some of us who may not watch TV or the news, everything we see on the internet just feeds into your own echo chamber. So some people, and this is shocking to me, have no idea what's going on now with the Asian hate crimes. They may not have seen any news around it because it's not in what's filtered in their ecosphere, right?
It's not on the radar of most of my white friends. I'll be completely transparent. I don't know like everyone out there. It's on my radar because I have a lot of Asian friends, as you know. I'm the one white girl and the one Asian
honorary
group.
Asian.
But I have a bunch of circles of friends, and I have some circles that are purely white women and others that are more diverse and mixed. And in those circles, it's top of mind. And in the ones that are purely white women, it doesn't come up ever. I'm going to be honest, you know?
So this is so good for us to know, because just because you're seeing what's happening doesn't mean everyone's seeing it. And the people who should be seeing it are not actually aware of what is happening in the world. This is my call out to all the big brands out there. For example, if you're a Pepsi, you're not a news organization, you're not considered the media, your posts would not be filtered out, right?
Yep.
So if you do bring awareness to what is happening with the Asian hate crimes, with Black Lives Matter, it is important for you to put out something about it, because your post will not be filtered out to the people who should be seeing it. That's just my one request for all the big brands. And for anybody who thinks big brands shouldn't have a stance, they absolutely should, and bring awareness to the current events.
Yeah, it's a really hard line, because like one of my favorite podcasts outside of us, they get a lot of flack for being political and saying statements like this and they actually had a recent guest that was talking all about, you know, Asian hate crimes and being Asian in America right now. And they get a lot of flack because they're a dating and relationship comedy podcast. And, you know, I, on one hand, get that. Like, a lot of, like, comments are like, I come here for relief. I don't want to hear about this stuff. I can hear about it in the news. But then on the other hand, I totally get why it's like we have a platform, especially you as an Asian woman. It's like, I want to use my platform for good. And I get it, but I see both sides of it, because I'm sure we have listeners out there that love hearing this stuff. And a bunch of people in our Facebook community actually reached out and said how like they love the last couple intros. But I'm sure there's other people out there that are like, just get to the dating topics. That's why we're here, you know?
I get it. But it's our house. And my friend Emily posted this, and I just want to read it. The first task of the activist is to make the invisible visible. So whether you agree with our platform or not, at least we're bringing awareness to what's happening. It is the responsibility of any influencers or anybody with a platform out there, especially these big brands, to just simply bring awareness to what's happening.
Totally. And I actually put up a post. I think this was like, you were kind of just like in the thick of all the stuff that was happening. This was like at the very beginning. And I just put up a post in our group that being like, you know, all our Asian, like Dateable fam, Asian listeners, like we're here, we're sending you love, we see you. And people's like reaction was just like, thank you. Like a lot of our Asian listeners were like, thank you for putting that out there. This community has been so much more than just dating and relationship advice. And I think like the way I've been thinking about it too, this isn't like it kind of clicked with this revelation, but yes, we're a dating and relationship podcast, but ultimately we're all about finding love, like, and being happy. That's the end goal. And I think you and I have talked about this at the beginning of this podcast. We thought that like we'd be talking about all these dating stories and, you know, like, and we never thought we'd be talking about, you know, dating yourself and self-love and all that stuff. And I think it is this like larger picture. And I think community, belonging, this feeling of belonging is a huge part of, you know, dating and relationships, even though it feels like it's not related because you're not technically like dating these people. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like I actually went to South by Southwest virtual, and there was a lot about this like feeling of belonging right now in community and tech for belonging. And to be honest, this has actually been like I feel like life mission in a way, because even before Dateable, I was doing 500 brunches that essentially brought people together. Like I think I just like have a strong passion in not just a romantic sense, just in general of bringing people together. I was thinking about this for myself, and I'm like, yeah, of course I want a partner. Of course I do. But I'm also okay now. Like I have more than enough people that I talk to on a daily basis. Like I feel a sense of love with community, with whether that's our own Facebook community and Dateable community, but also like my community in San Francisco and like all the friends I have, the family I have, like all that. And I think if you're coming from that place, you don't fall into these traps of just like sticking with these people that like treat you like shit for like months and months and months. So I do think it all connects.
And also when you have a sense of belonging, that hate dissipates because that hate is replaced by love. And you're able to date without hate. And when people don't feel like they belong, that's when they dig themselves into this dark hole of misery, of negativity, of just hate, for whatever reason from their past and their dating traumas. So it is so important to find a place that you belong and you have a support system so we can start to date without hate.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a perfect tie into this week's episode,
Yes,
which is basically,
I love this episode.
It's bringing the fun back into dating.
We need it.
And I think it really does stem from where you are. Like, if you're filled with love and abundance in all other parts of your life, you just look at that person as someone new you're meeting, not like, oh my God, this person needs to fill this gap that's like within me, this void. And then that's where the pressure comes in. And that's when you're like doing the mental checklist and going on the date review and you're not able to just have fucking fun. Like, that's the goal. Like,
and
why is that so hard?
How do you have that fun? You have to understand what it's like to bring play into dating and into relationships and into your life. So we have this expert on. He really is the expert in play, which just means he is a professional kid. And he's able to help us uncover that playful, almost childish side and bringing more lightheartedness to this really challenging time in our lives. And again, like what you were saying, Julie, dating should be fun. It shouldn't feel like a job. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It shouldn't feel like a burden. How can we make this experience more fun for us?
Totally. And Jeff Harry is his name. We actually met him through the Most Dateable contest. He was a supporter of one of our contestants, Tim, and he actually works with our events producer, Louise. So there is a connection, like, because they're both in the play space. I still think when I hear play, I still think play parties, sex. I need to get my mind out of the gutter a little.
Or just keep it there. Why?
I mean, I guess technically that is play because it's all about exploration, right? Like, that's the point of play parties. But yeah, that's a tangent. I think, with play, I personally, for me, like, someone that's playful has always been at the top of my, like, qualities. It's not even like something I've actively seeked out. It's just people that I've meshed with really well. I would describe, like, my most recent exes both as super playful. But I think what I've learned too is that doesn't mean that there's not a serious side. Like, just because you can act like a kid, and, like, I think sometimes people, like, associate kid-like behavior with immaturity, but I don't think that's always the case. Like, I think sometimes when you are just so deep and so mature, it's draining and boring. Like, I was on dates recently that I'm just like, I need to, like, go home because I'm mentally drained because we've just been, like, airing out our dirty laundry, hearing about, like, exes and, like, your past. Like, there's a time and a place for that, but on a first date, just fucking have fun and get to know each other.
Fucking have fun. And have good etiquette. Can we just bring up last week's episode? I knew it would be controversial. We talked about modern dating etiquette, and this instigated many discussions in our Facebook group. One of them being this idea of Venmo requesting your date after the date.
Oh, God.
And I got to hand it to Larita here. Okay, so she wrote something that I can totally resonate with. She went on a fabulous date with someone. They went hiking, great banter, and she started to lose interest the minute he asked to split the bill over Venmo. He was like, let me get this first, but then I'll Venmo request you for the half. There's just something so petty and so unromantic about that. I used to, Julie, in the beginning, I used to be all about the man paying for the date. I've now shifted. I think it should be equal, like 50-50. But to me, that means taking turns, wanting to pay for your date. The want, not the need, but the want to pay for your date, and to put a smile on their face, to be like, I got you, like, this is mine. And then I know they're going to get my next meal or whatever adventure. But the minute someone asks me to split the bill, I totally agree. My heart just goes, like it throws up a little bit.
What makes this so difficult is that everyone has a different point of view. Like Sonia, another member, was like, I kind of like Venmo. It's pragmatic. It's practical. So that's what makes it really hard, is you have no idea where this other person is coming from. I logically get the sharing the expenses 50-50. I totally logically get it, but there's something still within me that I cringe when the guy doesn't pay on the first date. Like there's something about it, and I know that's old school, and I know it shouldn't matter. I think though this also, it's like how you say it too, because I had this one situation where I remember this so well. It was like when I was doing 500 brunches, so I was not making much income at all, if anything. It was like startup mode, and I was on a date, and we went to the super expensive wine bar that he picked, and I did like the fake purse reach at the end. And he's like, oh, you know what? I'll get it because you're bootstrapping right now. And you're not making a lot of money.
So
and I was like, that is not what I want. Like, if you were just like, I'll get it because I had a really good time with you. It's just like, it was so unattractive and unappealing. And then I actually ended up fighting it because I did not want someone to pay for me out of pity. And then I got stuck with this massive bill when I wasn't making any money. And I was like, fuck, I should just let him pay for it. What was I doing? It was like my ego got in the way. But it was so insulting.
I've totally done that. I've totally done the, like, they ask if I want to split it, and I'm like, I'll just get it. I'll just pay for it, you fucker. Like, you even try to ask me to split it.
I didn't pay for it. I split it. But yeah, it was still absurd for what I was making at the time.
And I've also heard from men that they could be on a really great date, and when the bill comes, and if the woman doesn't even offer to pay, they start to lose interest.
Totally.
So there is that too.
I get the other side too. It's like, how many dates do you go on that you never see that person again?
Right.
For men that are like, in theory, if women are making the same money or around the same, why should they be picking up the tab every time? I totally get it. That being said, there's still that like subconscious. And, you know, I was talking about with Janice, our moderator, just in like a sidebar convo. And she's like, you know what? Like, women bear more childbearing, even like in relationships where men are doing a lot of the work, it's still falling more on women. So she's like, we can get treated to a dinner. So, you know, it's like there is that side of it too. And again, you could argue that in many different directions. It's such an interesting topic.
Yeah, because I don't like it when the conversation turns petty. It's more like, there should be a fight to pay for the bill, not a fight to try to split the bill. I want to go out with someone where enjoy their company so much that I want to show my appreciation and I want to pay for their meal or their drink. You're right. Everybody has their own stance on it. There's no right or wrong, but there is something about like asking to split the bill that just
totally
kind of grosses me out. Not gonna lie, grosses me out.
I think for me, it's like the beginning. I'd love it if someone picked it up on like the first couple dates, or even the first one, even the second, like, fine, let's split it, or I'll pick it up. Like, the first one, I do want to feel like treated. There's something that's like deep rooted in my feminine, like the way I grew up as a woman. I feel like I had an ex that paid for everything, like all the time. And to be honest, he probably shouldn't have been, but he wanted to. And I don't think that's necessarily necessary. I actually feel like kind of guilty about it, like now. But it's like one of those things that, like, you know, to him, he was like, I want to do this. This is my way of like protecting and like providing for you. So I think it all stems back to people's deep rooted like beliefs on it. And I do think older people, myself included as an elder millennial, have more traditional views on it. I think it's just come with time.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my boyfriend earlier today, and he's like, I think the younger generation is more about the even split.
Yeah, totally.
And they're okay with it. But when you mix the old and young on a date, that's when it gets a little bit weird.
Yeah, like if I went out with someone that was like in their like early 30s or late 20s, I probably have to expect that I'm going to have the bill split.
Yeah. It's changing times, but I agree. It's how you deliver that. It's not like, hey, you want to split this? I'm going to Venmo request you.
So while we're talking about etiquette and, you know, play, I did want to share this message I got on Hinge.
Oh boy.
I don't normally share messages on Hinge.
Let me get my coffee /vodka.
I actually feel like this is just play gone wrong. playfulness is great, but we talk about this on the episode. You kind of have to match each other's energy on play. And I was thinking about it, like you can bring playfulness into very early messages and flirting and all that. But the problem is sometimes you don't know the person in their tone in just message. And I think, I mean, I've said this before and people disagree with me. I'm personally so anti these like witty, clever opening lines on dating apps because I think they fall short a lot of times because there's no tone and knowledge of this person. So this is what I got. I have a photo of myself in a sriracha costume. And I probably should actually take this down because it's a little old at this point. But I think part of why I had it up is because I had like some prompt that like my favorite costume was sriracha. And everyone would be like, oh, why don't you have the photo up?
It's a great photo.
And it was a great photo. And I think it does bring my playful side out because I do love like Halloween. It's my favorite holiday of all time.
And you made that costume, right?
I did. I made it myself. But anyways, I think it's retired now because of this comment has put me over the edge with it. But it's time to retire this as a photo. But this was the comment I got on it. And I'm sure he was trying to be like funny and witty, but it came off.
No. Let's just go into the comment.
Okay.
I love how you're like trying to.
I'm trying to help him out. Like I don't think his intention was bad, but it just came off so gross. I'd like to twist your cap off and squirt you all over my nudes. Ugh. And then there's an emoji of noodles and a crying, laughing face.
Ew. Okay, nudes like noodles.
Yeah, like he was trying to be like twist on words.
Twist, squirt, and nudes should never be in the same sentence together when that's your opening line. Just saying.
And I think it was also like he didn't message me late night, but I didn't check the app. So when I actually did check it, it was like 9 a.m. in the morning, and that's what I got. So you have to also remember the state of mind someone might be in when they're receiving it. Like I opened my phone, I was like, ew. Like I like my stomach, like I like threw down the phone because I was so repulsed by it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a comment you can make after dating for a little bit and you know each other's sense of humor. But when you don't, it comes off creepy. Squirt, nobody should use the word squirt. It's like the word moist.
No.
Those two words should not be used when you just start dating someone.
If you're in person and you're like laughing and you're like, I want to squirt on your nudes, like joking, like I think that could be, it could.
I don't know. Even that.
I don't think.
The way you just said it, I was like grossed out by you. Like literally just.
I don't know. I'm thinking about like some of my ex. I don't think my exes would have said that, but I am thinking about like if they were to say that, would I be grossed out? I don't know if I would have, but I think just seeing that in text, I definitely was.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm grossed out regardless.
Do you remember the time when I was on Tinder and this guy, the messages that we had back and forth with the emojis? He was super playful in the beginning. I was like, this guy's funny. He's very clever and witty. And then he was like, so I'm just curious, how do you feel about... He put a tongue emoji and an eggplant emoji. So I'm like, blowjobs? I mean, sure. I don't have any particular feeling about that, but I've done them. And then he's like, great. So how do you feel about, then he put tongue emoji, eggplant emoji, and another tongue emoji. And I had to ask, like, whose tongue is that second tongue? And he said, mine. Like, whoa. So you're asking how I feel about both of us sucking the same dick. That is no longer play for me. That's just borderline wacko. Like that we haven't even met.
I'm going to give him credit though. If he
putting it out there.
But if he had put that in text, you would have been repulsed. But because he threw it in with emojis, he got a conversation started.
But I put on my podcaster hat. I was super curious. So I asked him what he meant. And he actually went into his fetish and how he and his ex-girlfriend found someone on Craigslist that they would suck dicks with. And it was a part of their pastime. He just wanted to get out there. Like, are you into this or not? If you're not, we're not going to meet up.
We're moving on. Yeah.
We're moving on. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's better to just put it out there from the get-go. Maybe this guy was like, I am really into twisting, squirting on your nudes. And if you're not in for it, let's not meet up.
I don't know. The way he did it, I think he was just trying to be clever. But you
I
know
know,
what?
I think he is, yeah.
We'll go on this episode. We're obviously going to show how, you can kind of meet someone where they're at with play and when to be playful and how to be more playful. So you'll get all that in the episode. But this was a quick anecdote of maybe what not to send.
It is related to a question that I want to bring up. So remember, we're doing this new segment. We'll call nude segment. It's the new segment.
Like NOOD or N. We're now calling it the nude segment every week.
Hey, you know what? If people are listening to this is a great way to drive YouTube traffic. Hey guys, we're doing a nude segment now. Come to our YouTube page.
That is the way the YouTube channel is going to grow.
Let's just do it from
the
now.
title is nude segment.
Nude segment. And then we just have censor bars. That's a brilliant idea. Anyway, let's park that for a sec.
We'll brainstorm that later.
Yeah. We'll iterate. We'll noodle it out a little bit.
We'll noodle on that. Wow, the word noodle now is going to just have a whole new form.
I don't want ramen today. I thought I was going to get some ramen. No. Anyway, so we're starting a new segment.
Change my open table thing for later.
Cereal face. A new segment called dating advice. We'll call it dateable advice, where we've gone through the questions that we've gone through email or DMs, and we want to pick out some of the ones that keep getting asked. And here's one that is actually related to this episode. This person says, I've been seeing someone for just a little bit, went on a few dates, and she doesn't like spontaneity or surprises. She prefers to know the itinerary ahead of time, but I want to infuse more fun into our dates. How do I do that without being spontaneous and scaring her off?
I love this question. I have some ideas because I'm definitely someone that likes a little planning, but I also don't like too much planning. I don't know. I have some friends where I have to book brunch like 4 months in advance, and that's a little too much for me. But what I would appreciate from a date is if they could be like early in the week being like, hey, let's do something on Friday or let's do something on Saturday. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but here is like, a hint, maybe wear sneakers or like whatever, like if there is like some sort of, dress attire, because I would feel uncomfortable if I was taken off guard majorly. But I think that could be add an air of excitement to like, what is it that this person has planned, but also not totally throw someone off guard that needs a little more planning and structure.
I think people innately do like surprises, but they want to be prepared as well. So for me, I would love to know everything that I need to prepare for this. I don't need to know exactly what we're doing, but give me the rundown. Like you said, what should I wear? Should I eat ahead of time? What's the weather going to be like? How long will it be? Will I exert a lot of energy, or will this be more of a passive engagement? Whatever it is, I just want to be prepared. I always like to watch those surprise proposals, and I'm like, did she know that she was getting proposed to? Because she's in full makeup. Like I'm always like, if you're going to surprise me with other people around and this is being filmed, make sure that I am dressed up and camera ready for it. Just because she says she doesn't like spontaneity and surprises doesn't mean it's the event itself. She just wants to be set up for success. That's basically what it is.
I think the other piece too is, even if it's not like this like big plan of like, hey, we're going to have this surprise day. Let's say you're out for dinner. Let's see where the night takes us. Let's go to another bar. Let's go to a gelato shop. Let's go to the park and have like an impromptu little like park picnic with wine. Like I think you can like bring spontaneity that way while you're already out. So it's not just dropping something on someone's plate either.
Yes. And it's the gorgeous thing about relationships is that you're just trying to get information from each other. So on one hand, maybe get curious. Why is it that you don't like spontaneity and surprises? Maybe there was a surprise that went wrong in your past and it comes from some sort of trauma. Or get to a point where it's like, okay, so you don't like it when you wouldn't like it if we crashed a party, for example, but you would like it if, would you like it if I told you this and we did that? So it's constantly pushing the boundaries in a safe way of what your partner really means when they say, I don't like something.
I love that. Just ask, set it up. And then if someone's like, no, I really don't want you to plan this surprise, like getaway or whatever, then don't do it. You know, like you have to then decide like how important spontaneity is or find other ways to do spontaneous activities.
Dude, when you say surprise getaways, I'm like, whoa, that just triggers something for me. I think on paper it sounds so romantic, but in reality, I'm like,
No.
did I pack enough underwear?
Exactly.
What's the weather going to be like? Don't just spring that up on me. Just tell me what to do to prepare. I don't need to know where we're going, but set me up for success.
I had a friend that had her boyfriend pack 2 suitcases, one with cold weather gear and one with warm weather wear. That would literally give me anxiety. But for him, it worked out well because he was that type of person. So I think it really is knowing your audience. And I think that's why sometimes these big gestures do kind of fall flat if you don't know that person well. So I love this, like build up to it. Maybe try small things. Maybe it's starting when you already have a date and then adding a little. And then maybe from there, it's adding a little more for the idea we had about, you know, we're going to do something Saturday, wear sneakers. Like it's just a keep building up instead of going in with this huge plunge from day one.
For sure. And also remember, fun and playfulness doesn't always mean surprises and spontaneity.
No.
You can still have planned fun. It doesn't have to. I've learned that the hard way. I love surprises, but my parents don't. And I always love to surprise them. And they're like, stop surprising us. You're going to give us a heart attack. Like, stop surprising us with shit. Just tell us what's happening.
And I think, I love that too. It's like, just because you like spontaneity and they don't, it doesn't mean your relationship is doomed to. Like, what is it about spontaneity that you like? Is it that you just have this like level of playfulness and fun? Maybe you can inject that in a different way.
Yes. Really good point. So there you go. If you want to infuse a little bit of fun into your dates without too much surprises, that's our 2 cents.
Cool. Shall we get into some sponsors?
Yes, let's do it. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. It is no surprise. Julie and I are huge fans of therapy, especially online therapy, and BetterHelp can do exactly just that. They match you with your own licensed therapist and connect you in a safe and private online environment. I was able to start communicating with my therapist in less than 48 hours, super fast. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, and it's more affordable than traditional offline counseling. Their licensed professionals specialize in everything from stress management, anxiety, trauma, dating, and grief. We at Dateable wish for all of you to live a happier, more wholesome life, and we think therapy and prioritizing your mental health will accomplish that. So as our listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/dateable. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DATEABLE. This episode is sponsored by Apostrophe, a prescription skincare company for people that are ready to take their skin seriously. I've struggled with skin issues all my life, ranging from acne, uneven skin tone, and now aging. And now with all the mask wearing, it's exasperating my skin issues. And then Apostrophe comes to the rescue. So here's how it works. You fill out an online questionnaire about your skin concerns, snap a few selfies, and a board-certified dermatologist creates a customized treatment plan just for you. Your medications are then delivered to your home. Easy. It took me maybe 3 minutes to fill out the questionnaire and upload my photos, and I've already started my treatment, and I'll update you all on how that's going in a few weeks. So far, I've seen a drastic reduction in my maskne. That's mask acne, in case you didn't know. In the meantime, get $15 off your first visit with a board-certified dermatologist at apostrophe.com/dateable and use our code DATEABLE. This code is only available for our listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/dateable and click begin visit, then use the code DATEABLE as sign up and you'll get $15 off your dermatology visit. That's apostrophe.com/DATEABLE and use the code DATEABLE to get your dermatology visit for $15 off.
Awesome. So, shall we hear it from the one and only Jeff Harry?
Woo, go Jeff. Here's the deal. Dating should be fun, right? And sometimes we forget that dating should be fun. We treat it like a job. We treat it like a chore. We treat it like our number one enemy when dating is about finding someone that you love spending time with? Why should it feel like a chore? So our guest today is here to help us bring playfulness back to dating. And before we get to what playfulness means, because I'm sure there are lots of different definitions of play, I just want to introduce our guest of honor. His name is Jeff Harry. He's 42 years old, currently lives in Chicago. He's been there for the past year and a half during COVID, obviously like everyone else who's just been somewhere else during COVID, but he still has a place in Oakland. Look at you with your pied-à-terre. Originally from the suburbs of Chicago, he's pretty single and he has been taking a dating sabbatical. He's an international speaker, positive psychology coach, and founder of Rediscover Your Play, where he shows individuals and organizations how to tap into their true selves, to feel their happiest and most fulfilled, all by playing. Julie, when I say the word play, what do you think of?
I think of play parties. So our mind is in the gutter. Our listeners know Louise, who's kind of like our events extraordinaire, and her and Jeff know each other from the play world. And literally every time she says it to Yue and I, our mind like reverts back, think about like play parties, like sex parties that we've been to. But that being said, but you guys have a much more PG rated definition of play. And I think it's interesting because play parties, the whole idea is to get out of your comfort zone. Even though it's sexually, it still is a form of play. So it makes sense. But we know that you primarily work with like businesses, and that's kind of the people you think of that are like stiff and need to let loose and like play.
Right.
But we find it in daters. And I'm curious like what your definition of play is and how you see it coming into dating.
Sure. So I define play as any joyful act where you are fully present in the moment, where there is no purpose, there is no result. You don't have anxiety about the future. You don't have regrets about the past. You're just like fully in flow, like you're fully in the zone. And when you're doing that, I guess when you're dating it's the same feeling where you're like, you forget about time. It's where you could be talking to someone for 3 hours and you're like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. And because you're just in that mode, right? Or you're on a date and like 4 hours have passed. So, when you're really in that flow and you really like feel that connection with somebody, that's when I truly feel people are at play.
And we know you're currently taking a dating sabbatical while you're at your pied-à-terre in Chicago. But when you are in the dating scene, how have you been able to integrate play into dating?
Yeah, so I hate meh dates, like average dates. I'd rather it be amazing or horrible, because if at least it's horrible, it's hilarious. And then I have a story afterwards. But when it's just meh and you don't really know, like, should I go on the date again or not? And you're like, oh gosh, like, enough meh dates. So like, I want something super unique. So even twice I did this. I learned this from Love Actually, where I took a date where instead of us going to the movie theaters, we went to SFO International Airport. We went to the international terminal. We got food and we got flowers. And we just watched people get greeted at the international airport. And when we felt compelled, we would give out flowers to certain people. And we would just come up with stories for people and just be like, I wonder who they're waiting for. And it was just like, it was a different experience. So like, I'm all about that. One time I went randomly horseback riding with someone. I had never even met them before, but I'm like trying to have I'm trying to have play experiences, because Plato didn't say this quote, but you really do learn more about a person in an hour of play than a year's worth of conversation. So why not have like experiences to actually learn about that person instead of just people talking about what they like to do? Why don't you just show what you like to do? Because that, I feel, speaks more volume.
I love this idea of the airport. Like, was this like an early date or were you guys dating for a while? I need more details.
This is an early date. Yeah, I took two different people on that date. It was super interesting.
SFO staff knows Jeff on a regular basis. He's like a regular at the airport.
Just like,
they're like, he is again on his first date.
Here it is again. Is he picking somebody up? Why does he have food? Why does he have a whole platter?
So what was your date's reaction when you're like, hey, we're going to SFO?
Well, she like knew who I was. So she was like, yeah, that sounds super fun. So, and that's the other process of it, right? If you ask somebody to go on this like ridiculous date and they say no, know, that's a good thing because then you're filtering out who's down and who's not down to do this, right? Like, imagine if someone that like loves to work at soup kitchens and it was just like, my first date's going to be at a soup kitchen. So even if it doesn't go well, I know that I have another person that's doing work alongside me. Like, you would just experience something brand new with that person. So I'm all about doing that.
I mean, personally for me, like someone that has playful qualities is such a turn on. Like all like my past like exes, like definitely would describe them as playful. Like that's something that comes to mind. And I might not have done like necessarily like playful activities as much, but there's something about their demeanor that was very playful. Like my most serious ex like broke into song from Fiddler on the Roof like on our first date because and then like from then we had like a shared, you know, bond over this movie. And my other ex like had this, it was just like this ridiculous thing that he like had like stuffed bears that he was obsessed with. And he like started naming my pillows that like resembled bears. And we had like this whole like secret like love story between my pillows and his bears. And I know that sounds
oh my God.
so freaking ridiculous.
No, that sounds
But it was so cute. And like when you like someone, that shit's adorable. And I know it sounds super weird.
No, it's perfect, right? Because why is it perfect? Because it's weird, it's strange, it's nerdy. It's everything that we actually are, right? I think a lot of times we have, as Chris Rock says, like our representative for the first date. And it's like, hello, this is me and this is what I do for a living. You're like, I don't want to meet that person. Adults are boring. Adults are so boring, not because they're actually boring, but because we pretend to be normal when none of us are normal. We're all super weird. So why not lead with the weird?
Just to be clear, the bears did not come out on the first date. It was probably like 2-3 months in. But yes, I agree with you.
I mean, no, but I'm all about that. You know, it's just, you know, I think I shared you on this one TikTok video of someone that was like on one of their first dates, the guy asked his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah, soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. Hello, whoops. No, but so the date idea was, he goes, okay, pick a number between 1 and 10, and she was like 7 or something, and then he goes, all right, pick a number between 1 and 100, and she's like 94, and then he's like, all right, let's go, and she's like, where are we going? And they went to, I think, like a Goodwill or a Salvation Army, and then it was for $7.94. She dressed him, and then he dressed her, and then they went to some really fancy restaurant. Now, obviously, some people are like, I would never do that. But it's just like, if you pick your way of playing, and if the person is down to do it, then you're going to learn a ton about them right there. And then again, just to redefine, like, play is any joyful act where you forget about time, right? So it can be anything can be play. There's not just certain ways in which this is play and this is not play. It's all up to you how you define that. If that's y'all just reading books at the library, sweet, nerd out. Like, do you, boo-boo.
I think it's like it forms a connection though, because it's like an inside joke. It's like inside, you know, activity that you're not doing with every last date. So I love it.
Okay, so I'm very intimidated by this. I enjoy play in a relationship, but in dating, it's a little hard. One, because I'm lazy. I just feel like, just go to a bar, go to a restaurant. It's just easier. And two, sometimes I feel like when the play someone creates is not suited for me, it becomes daunting.
Oh,
so
I agree.
Maybe you can give some advice around how people can create play that's customized for their dates.
Right. So first off, I hate forced play. So if someone's like, let's play, and you're like, I have 30 minutes. I don't really care. I don't really want, I think it's part of the discussion, right? Like when you are interviewing the person before you meet them, you just start talking about like things that you find really fun, and you try to find what like connects to both of you. Part of the reason why I mentioned like go weird and be like nerdy is because you also are trying to filter people out, right? When I've been at bars or like dance clubs or whatever it would have you see the same person there, the same CrossFit guy named Chad, who does finance. You're like, we've made that guy. We know that guy. I don't want more of that guy. And how do you like filter that out? It's through play. It's also about even how you go about meeting people, because if we're always like going to to certain places and that's where we're supposed to meet, instead of being like, let me just do something fun, right? Let me just go to this woo-woo camp or this self-improvement camp. I've met more people that are closer to my shared values when I go to something like that than me going to like a bar or Whole Foods at the takeout line and just hanging out there, even though SF Chronicles says that's the place to be.
I think also a lot of times it's just organic. It's honing in on those playful muscles. Like, I'm pretty sure my ex wasn't like planning to sing Fiddler on the Roof. Like, it just happened to come in. And I think that's like really the key to it, because I agree, like, if it feels too forced, then it feels like contrived, and that's not really play at the end of the day.
No, everything is, even conversation is like, I was saying it in the article I just wrote. You inspired it, by the way. So it's like improv, where it's like you're doing a yes and with people whenever you have a conversation with them. You know, you start off and you're like, hello, what are you doing? What is it? You know, and you start joking around about something that you appreciate about each other, and you're yes-anding each other. And only what happens when it doesn't feel right is when someone either negates it or it just doesn't vibe. So this is all about active listening, and this is all about like reflecting back what you've heard. And all of that is part of the play. I'm not just saying, Yue, like, hey, you got to get out there and go to LA's International Terminal tomorrow.
That's going to be the new date hotspot.
And you may or may not show up. You know, I just have to wait.
Right. We start off small. It could even be the questions that you ask someone, because usually we ask, what do you do for a living? I think that's a horrible question. I always ask, when was the last adventure you were on? What mischief are you causing in the world? And people are like, mischief? What about mischief? And then some people are, let me tell you about my mischief. You know, so like you don't know, but just even the interesting taking a risk and like doing that 20 seconds of courage, like, and trying out something that you're like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm kind of nerve-sided. I'm both nervous and excited about this. Let me try this. Is a way in which you can like, you can come up with something you can co-create with this other person.
Yeah, like I had a conversation the other day where it turned into like the guy like hooked me with his photos of his corgi, but it turned out he didn't actually have a corgi, so he was like, I corgi fished you, and then it like became this joke, and he like sent me a cat photo the other day, and I'm like, now you're catfishing me, and it like, I think it's because it's like fed off of each other, but if one person wasn't into the joke, it would have just died at that point. It would have become like a thing.
It's about creating these inside jokes, but I can also see, so here's the question. Do you think play is successful with all personalities, or do you think it has to be specific personalities? Because I'll give you as an example, Jeff. When you came on the Zoom and you showed up, for people who can't see, he's got a clip-on bow tie that's made out of cardboard or plastic.
Is that Legos?
Lego.
Immediately, I turned on my playful side because I was like, yes, this guy is here to have a good time. So I feel like you brought that out of me, but is it because I already have that kind of personality where the playfulness may be dormant and it just needs to be like stimulated? Or do you think that everybody has that inside of them?
Oh, everyone has it, but I feel everyone has it in a different way, right? Not everyone is like extrovert with their play. Some people are very introverted. See, I also talk about how play is the opposite of perfection. And perfection is rooted in shame and ego and not looking stupid and peer pressure, right? Like it's all the things from high school that we hated the most. But play is experimentation. It's curiosity. And that's what I feel like is a better, or just a really more enjoyable way to approach dating or your whole life, because then it's just like you're able to let go of expectations. You know, expectations are the thief of joy, and adults get so fixed on results. And that was why 2020 was such a tough year for so many people, because on top of all the loss and the pain, also they had all these dreams, December 31st, 2019, of what was going to happen. I'm going to get married. I'm going to change the world. You know, I'm going to start my business. And then all those things didn't happen, right? And when we get fixated so much on that result, it destroys the present. It destroys the process. And how many times have you been on a date and you're like, all right, you know, this person is shorter than me. What are our babies going to look like? Oh my gosh. How is he going to look when he's 80? And you're just like, whoa, let's just like be present with what's happening now and just see what's happening and stay in the moment and stay navigating like that uncertainty and be comfortable in that uncertainty, instead of being like, I need to know the right answer, because there is no right answer. It's different for everybody.
I think you hit the nail on the head of why play has been sucked out of dating, especially with apps where there's so many prospects books, people are one, trying to like cut through the clutter and also not get hurt.
Right.
So they turn to the daterview, which is basically just like, you know, a bad interview where someone's just pressing you for questions and, you know, asking you why your last relationship didn't work out or where you want to be in 5 years. And that's a shitty date. It's not fun. Like, core of that approach is to get information. But you said something interesting earlier that you could actually learn more from an hour of play. Like, how do you get people to like rewire their brain on that?
Well, you have to let go of the result. That's the biggest one. You have to be like, all right, what is the purpose of me being here? Is the purpose of me to see if this person checks off all the boxes? Or is the purpose of me being here to see if I am enjoying myself? Like, am I having fun here? Like, do I trust this person to go and to escape from the room and us try to get out together? You know, like there's certain things that you can actually learn. It's funny that we focus so much on words, right? And words is what, 10% of communication? Tone is like 40%, you know, body language is around 50%. Oh, we're so focused on the wrong thing. We actually think that if I go on more apps and I interview more people, just logically, I will eventually find the right person because I've crossed all these other people out. Maybe you will, or maybe you won't, but is it fun? I'm all about like, why don't you just do things that are fun? And then if someone happens to be there that connects with you, sweet. But like, I'm trying to live my life. And then if someone amazing happens to show up, then that's great. But I think when we're coming from a place of lack, right? And we're just like, oh my gosh, I need to find this person. And this person is going to fulfill my soul, you know, and fill the gap that's in my heart. Like, man, that's a lot of pressure on you as well as the other person. And then you're going to have that first date. And the first thing you're thinking about is like, so, you know, is it going to be a year before we get married? Like, whoa, man, that's a lot. You know, like, he's a redhead. Will I want to have his baby? Do I want redhead babies? Like, whoa,
like we haven't even had a drink yet.
I get a little concerned with when people use the word fun too much. It gets thrown around. How was the date? It was fun. How was the event? It was fun. But was it actually fun? It probably wasn't. It was probably fine, but it wasn't fun.
It was fine.
So they're using the wrong F word. But here's a distinction I want to make, because I can also see people thinking that play is part of entertaining someone, and that puts a lot of pressure on you. My role here is to entertain my date, but it's not really about that. So an example is my friend has a 6-year-old, and during COVID, school has been virtual. So her 6-year-old gets on Zoom, and she says, she's like, I shit you not, for an hour, she's just staring at the screen with all her classmates, and they're playing without saying a word to each other. All they're doing is like, they bring out their toys and they make eye contact and they do body language or whatever. That's their idea of play. She's like, not one word is spoken. That was mind blowing for me, because I think as adults, we always assume that we need to entertain with our words and that there can't be silence. We got to keep it going. When so much of play, not entertaining, play should be about the nonverbal. So maybe, Jeff, you can give us some advice on how to shift that mindset.
Yeah. So I think the thing that is worth exploring is when you have a thought that you think, ooh, that's really exciting, but that also makes me really nervous, or that person's going to think I'm weird. Do it. Do that thing. Do that thing. And here's the reason why, because maybe it is, let's just talk about like the silence thing. Let's say it's just like, hey, I want our first date. I love to read. Oh, you love to read? Let's just go hang out in the park and we'll read right next to each other. That's the play. That's the play. That's fine. Like, again, it's open because you're just you're testing, you're experimenting, you're trying things out. And I think a lot of times we actually want to entertain the person because we want them to like us, even if we don't like them. Right. Even if we don't like them, we're like, well, I want this date to go well because I wanted some good reviews on Uber or Lyft. I don't understand why we had like a dating Uber. But like, so yeah, Julie and I were talking about it, how we get really good at interviewing people. Like, we get really good at asking really good questions. And also, I'm really good at being vulnerable. So at the end of the date, the person is like, man, this went really well. And man, Jeff shared a lot. He was quite vulnerable. It's like, nah, I share that with everybody. Like, that's just, my threshold of vulnerability is just more than most people. So I think what I recommend doing is, again, play is like a dance. It's an exchange. And you should be showing them what your type of play is. What your type of interest is. so that you don't feel like you're entertaining them, but you're like, hey, I'm doing my thing. Oh, you're doing your thing. Oh, here's what I love about my thing. Oh, I love that. Oh, what are you doing? Just like the kids do, where you're just like kind of curious and then you go back to your thing. So then you're staying within yourself and you're not trying. The reason why dating is so hard and exhausting and feels like work is because we're trying too hard. We're trying to be somebody else. We're always playing a role, but why not play a role that we actually want to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best dates are when it just feels like two friends that are hanging out and it's not like a formal thing. Those have been by far the best dates I've ever had. You know what's interesting though is I can hear people saying, like our audience being like, but don't we need to get like deep? Don't we need to like share our life's like goals and ambitions and all the stuff that isn't really considered play, but more like, you know, the deep talk? We actually ran a super interesting dating experiment a while ago. It was a Love is Blind experiment off of the TV show. And UA and I, along with all of our listeners, we were convinced that one of the guy, Ryan, was going to pick this one woman, Taylor, like, cause they had like this spiritual connection. They bonded. Yeah. Like all this, like they kept talking about like in the check-ins, like how deep they were bonding. So we all thought like across the board, he was going to pick her. And then he ended up picking another girl, Lacey, because she was fun. That was his like exact words. But that being said, it kind of petered out and maybe Taylor actually would have been the better long-term partner. Like, how do you balance both? And like, what is your thoughts about, you know, going deep and also being playful? Does it have to be one or the other?
No, I mean, play can be deep too. Like I do this on Clubhouse all the time. I do like introspective play where we ask like really hard questions like, all right, this is the Tombstone play game. Here lies Jeff, best remembered for embracing play, being his nerdy self and loving Cobra Kai, you know, and like that is like a sentence that everyone then has to answer on Clubhouse. So like there are ways in which you can ask really interesting questions. What about the 36 questions that make you fall in love? You could ask one of those questions on one of your first dates. Again, it's about where do you want to go? Do you want to get deep right now? Let's go deep right now. Let's pick one question out of the 36 questions, or my friend Jan, who has these Ask Deep question cards, and we pick one and we answer that. Like that can all be it. Or you can just be like, okay, tell me your worst dating experience. And then as y'all are sharing that together, you know, all of a sudden you start to peel the layers off and you're like, oh, wow, that's real. And then maybe you feel comfortable enough to ask, then why do you break up with your last person? Or one of those like really hard questions that was in the DATEABLE game show that was like,
oh, the V card. Everybody was so vulnerable, right? Everyone was kept passing out their V cards. Hey, this is just a side conversation, but it seems like you have a lot of fun on dates. You're very playful. Why are you taking a dating sabbatical? I would assume that you just love dating. You just be out there dating night and day.
Now here comes the hard-hitting questions.
Whoa, night and day.
Jeff doesn't work. He just goes on dates 24/7.
Right. That's just what I do. Hello, everybody. No, the reason, I mean, there's also another reason why I'm in Chicago. So I came to Chicago originally, partly because of COVID, but also because my nephew, I was trying to help him graduate from high school. So he moved in with me and I helped him get into college. So I moved back, you know, October of 2019. But also a person that I was dating lived in Chicago and I was living in Oakland. So I spent the last year and a half with her and like I got really close to her and her kids and it was amazing. And then it ended up not working out. So like I'm still here in Chicago and planning to head back. But like I went all in to be like, I got to see this through, you know, and I put my heart and soul in it and I got like super hurt and I'm sure she did as well. But, you know, I feel happy that I at least explored it and took the full risk. And I think that lesson can be learned in the dating world is I can't believe I'm quoting We Bought a Zoo, but it's just like, you know, the movie with Matt Damon, by the way, 20 seconds of insane courage. Like all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage, 20 seconds of sheer bravery, and like everything can change. And I feel like at every moment you have that. And one thing that my friend Angie Cole taught me that I thought was really powerful and helped me in my relationship. Angie, and her boyfriend have this rule about, it's called open hand, not open marriage, not open relationship, but open hand. It goes off of the analogy that like you have this open hand and a bird can land on it at any time. Like a relationship, it can fly away at any time. And that is what a relationship is. Every day you have to decide, like, do I want to stay here or not? Do I want to love this person again today? Almost like you're getting remarried each and every day. And she found that's much more powerful than when we're like, you can't leave, because then it seems like a trap for both people. So like, I just try to operate off that. And like, I go all in, I get my heart broken, but like, at least I enjoyed the ride, right? And I feel like that is the thing we're so scared about. We're so scared to get hurt, but also that's where all the joy and the fulfillment and the play is. It's in that same deep end of the pool where you also might get hurt.
You know what I find so fascinating about you is that like you have the now he's scared. He's like, where is this going?
The bow ties
like,
off.
Let's go deep. I'm all about going deep.
That is kind of what I'm
ready.
saying though, is I feel like you have this like persona that's like this fun play guy, right? Like that's like your whole MO. You have the Lego bow tie and all that, but you also have this deep side. Like I remember when you shared the story about like going back to like help your nephew get through high school. Like that's like a very serious side. And I guess my question for you is like, how can people kind of like balance the two? And like, can people ever come off as just being like too playful and get like not taken seriously and kind of miscategorized? Has that ever happened to you?
I mean, yes. I mean, I run stuff for like Fortune 500 companies, and all the time they're like, who in the world is this ridiculous dude? But as soon as I help create like a psychologically safe like workplace for their staff, and they're like taking risks, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, this super weird dude actually is helpful. So I think a lot of times, again, we're trying to be like, what is the right way? Can I be more normal? And Viola Davis says this all the time, like you either claim who you are or you end up chasing your worth for the rest of your life. And how many people do you know chasing their worth, like constantly looking for validation and being like, is this the right way to date? Should I be on Hinge? Should I be on Tinder? Should I be on Coffee Meets Bagel? Should I be? And it's just like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, and what I mean by that is, it's just like the Thigh Master. When someone's like, I lost all my weight on the Thigh Master. And you're like, it wasn't the Thigh Master. It wasn't Tybo or your paleo diet. You just decided now I'm going to lose weight and you're attributing it to this. And it's the same thing with like dating apps. Is dating apps the right way or not the right way? Who knows? It's up to you. There's no right way, right? Like you could go to woo-woo camps and meet someone. You could be on Hinge and meet someone. You could go to a bar and meet someone. You could just hang out at Whole Foods every day at the same time.
And meet someone.
Looking for
Absolutely.
that. Like,
You forgot the airport.
right. So play with it, right? And stop looking for the right answer, as there is none. The right answer is the one where it's just like, as my friend Eduardo always says, you do you, boo-boo. Like, like own you, because the more you are yourself, right? And I hate faux authenticity. I hate how people use the word authentic all the time. Just be yourself. What does that even mean, right? But it's just like, just be what you are scared to be, which is you. Put it out in the world. You might get rejected, but also you might be like putting out to the world so someone else that sees and resonates with your nerdiness is like, yo, I need to hang out with that person.
So for someone who is putting themselves out there in a authentic, non-influencer way, and they're getting a hang of this whole playful dating, bringing it to their relationships, etc. I think another question people would have, though, is coming out of a date where maybe we played for 8 hours. How can I tell if that was a good date versus I just created a really fun, playful environment? I can see myself going on a date with you, Jeff, and we hang out for 8 to 10 hours. We're playful. We're doing all this and all that. And I come out and I'm like, I think that was a bomb-ass date. I think we're falling in love. And you could just be like, that's a Tuesday. So how can people be more in touch with their feelings after the fact and really like
get to the core of like, was that a good date? Did we make a connection?
Well, did you enjoy the experience? Or did you enjoy the person? Did you connect with the person, or you just remember what do you remember afterwards as you're describing it to your friends? What is actually coming out? Are you talking about more about what you did, or are you talking about more about who the person is? You know, my best friend Dana, she still gets like warm and fuzzy whenever she brings up her boyfriend. They've been dating for like 5-7 years now. Like they get all like that feeling right there. Like, you know it. It's that same when you finish the date, you're like, fuck yeah, I want to go on another date. Like you don't wait 2 days. No, you're like, I want to talk to that person right now. Like I am missing you as we're leaving, right? That's when, yes. And if you're like, oh, well, I don't know, it was kind of good, but maybe if you're persuading yourself, no, that's move. You can move on.
Dead on, because I've heard people describe their dates and they lead with the activity.
Totally.
Like, oh, I went to mini golf. It was so fun. And it's like, but could you have gone to mini golf with anyone?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I think that is a telltale sign of like, is it the person or is it the actual date? Because I think the best dates, you could literally be doing nothing. Like, it almost doesn't matter where you go because it's just the personality that you're jiving with.
Yeah. And also, like, if you're like, okay, I don't know what playful activities I can do, right? Let's say you're just like, I don't play. There's a lot of people like I work with, like I had a lawyer client once that was like, I don't play ever.
Sounds like.
And I was like, well, what do you do? And she goes, well, I take people that hate each other and I get them to agree on one thing. And I was like, ooh, tell me more. And she was telling me, she was like, ooh, that's your play. That's how you play. So again, it's very broad. So here is a play experiment you can do with your friends to like actually identify ways in which you could play more and then maybe play more in dates. So you reach out to 3 to 5 of your closest friends. You can also do this on social media, but it's better to reach out and like talk to your friends. I know, over the phone, it's scary. And so you ask them these 2 questions. And the first one is like, what value do I bring to your life? Like, what do I do for you? Like, why are we friends? Because I think a lot of times we forget what impact we have on people's lives, right? So that's the first one. And then the second one is, when have you seen me come most alive? And this is based off the Howard Thurman quote of like, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is for more people to come alive, right? And another way of asking, when have you seen me come most alive, is when have you seen me most playful, most creative, most myself? So what value do I bring to your life? And when have you seen me come most alive? And when you get the answers back from 3 to 5 different people, drastically different answers, and you write them all down, you start to see all these patterns and you're like, oh wait, those are the ways I play. Oh, those are the ways I actually get really excited about life. Oh, those are the ways I actually impact people's lives. I didn't even remember that. Or thank you for reminding me, right? And then when you write it all down, then you go back out to your same friends, you get a little tipsy, you have a little tipsy storm. I like to call it tipsy storm, right? Or you could even do this over Zoom, and you show them all the things that you've written down and all the patterns, and you brainstorm a bunch of adventures that you could do as friends, or adventures you could do with potential dates. But again, it's a playful activity to like rediscover.
Can we do it on each other, Julie?
Sure.
Let's do it. Jeff, you're going to moderate this. Everyone's going to witness.
Oh, I get to see it. Oh,
we're doing it real time. I love it.
You want me to do the asking first, or do you want to do the asking first?
You could do the asking first.
Okay. First question. What was the question again? Why are we friends? What value do I bring to your life, Julie?
Oh, you bring so much value. I don't even know where to start. But I mean, I think just a couple things come to mind. I think I always have fun when I'm with you. I always feel like you're a delight to be around. You care about the people in your life. You are funny. Like, you'll always add some sort of wit to yeah, I know. You always just like basking in the glory right now. I think you're also a really great listener. I think there's a lot of value that you bring. So there's the value of when you engage and talk, but also how you're there for your friends, you're listening and really taking things in.
Okay, so that was all recorded, right? I'm just gonna...
this was the trick. I see now.
She's just gonna play that at night.
I'm gonna play that every morning as I brush my teeth. Forget my own affirmations. I just listen to Julie talk about me. Okay, great. So next question is, when do you see me come to life? Is that like right?
When did you see me most alive? Yeah, come to life.
By far when you're performing. Like when you did when we've done live shows, when we did the Most Dateable show, that was like your baby. And I feel like you came to life with that. So I think when you can show everyone those, like the witty comments, the funny piece. And even when we do this podcast, I definitely think you come to life.
Love it. Oh, okay. I'm going to write this down. Julie, your turn.
You don't need to write it down. It's recorded for everyone to hear.
That's very true.
But I guess, okay, we probably don't need to go into all mine for time's sake, but how does UA then now take what I just said and apply that to dating and relationships? I'd love to make that transition, with what info I just gave her. What's that next step?
Well, so first we identified what value she brought to your life, right? The fact that she's able to listen, the fact that she's really fully present. Also that when she comes most alive is when she's performing, when she's doing this bigger thing. So what are ways in which you can actually do that on a date? Are we talking karaoke? Are we talking something?
That's true.
What are ways in which where you get to be? I'm going to do an open mic stand-up comedy thing. Yeah, something I've never done before. And you're going to come and watch me. And this is going to be one of our first dates. Or we're going to go to an improv show and attempt to do something that I've never done before, or go trampoline, not trampolining, but when you swing on those what is it? I forgot what those things are, but
no
in the circus.
Oh, trapeze.
I was going to say trampoline dodgeball has always been my dream date that no one's taken.
Is it really? Okay, we have that on record for anybody listening. Anybody looking for a broken ankle,
But I would ask you, Yue, what are some ways that you love to show up? You love to perform. And from there we would dive into that more. And especially when you're asking multiple friends, they're going to give you a lot of different answers.
Yeah.
I love this idea of activities you could do, but I could also see people being I'm not sure if I'm ready to take the plunge and do an open mic night. But I mean,
but again, remember, it's catered to each person. So someone else might say something that's much more subdued and be you love to read poetry one-on-one with someone. Okay, sweet. Then that's what we're going to do. It doesn't have to be something so overt. I think a lot of times we think again, what you said earlier, Yue, play has to be entertaining for everyone. No, it doesn't. Play doesn't have to entertain anyone. I make ridiculous TikTok videos and people are oh, I love them. And I'm great, but they're not for you. I'm just making them for me. This is my play. This is how I'm playing. And if you want to join the party, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, a bunch of people joined the party for Eat, Pray, Love, but my next book, no one cared. So whatever, I'm still doing this for me.
Julie, do you remember when we set up Shelby on those 2 dates and she and Matt, I think was his name, they crashed a party in Hayes Valley.
Yeah.
And I still remember that was a memorable date for her because they didn't plan it, but he kind of he's I think there's a party going on up there. Should we go check it out? And they went and they pretended they knew people there. And that was a really great bonding moment. And that's small play. That's not grand gestures, but it's spontaneous. Right.
But I think the problem for them was that overshadowed their connection.
Totally.
At the end of the day, that's what they kept referring back to as this moment. So I think it can't overshadow your connection so much, or that you've just done a fun activity.
But if it's okay, even if it does overshadow it, because then again, that this is not the right. The play helps either way because it provides clarity. And at the end of the day, at the end of your year, I always ask people what do you remember? Your most productive moments of the year or your most play, fun, joyful moments?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, why wouldn't we be focused on trading more play, fun, joyful moments, especially when we're dating? If we can't do that while we're working, at least do that while we're dating.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, using the Shelby example, she definitely remembered that and probably would try that with other people or knew that was something that excited her. And then to your point, Jeff, it's if that overshadows the person so much, then you're okay, maybe we didn't have the bond that we thought we did. And it's still a learning experience.
Well, it's still it's a win-win situation because you still had fun.
And this is going to sound a little nerdy, but I like to go nerdy sometimes. I had a colleague who used to work on the Mars rover, and she was they were all about always making it fail. Like their job was to constantly break it on the ground on Earth so that when it finally went out into, Mars 1.5 million miles away, they would have known all the ways in which it was going to fail. And I think a lot of times when a date fails, or a relationship doesn't work out, that we feel like we've lost. And it's like, no, it's just more information. Right. It's just more information that's getting you closer to what you really want. And I say this a lot that like, I forgot who told me this, but someone said, you're either in a relationship and you're in the relationship until you learn the lesson that you need to learn. And then when you finish learning that lesson, you either decide, all right, now this relationship's over because it's done, right? And we celebrate that. Or I continue the relationship because I want to learn more lessons with this person. But either way, you're constantly growing. And I think we don't give ourselves credit for that. I think each time, like I was just with someone for a year and a half, I could see it as like a waste of time and just be like, oh, I'm starting back at square one, but I don't want to believe that. I don't. I want to believe that because I met this amazing person that had me grow in certain ways, now I'm a better person because of that, right? And I think we need to celebrate that more and stop like beating yourselves up and listening to our inner critic that's like, you're always going to be alone. Right. No, you're not. That's not true.
Send that person to time out. They should not be playing.
Right.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm just like thinking back to like dates that I've had too. And like one of the ones that stands out with like one of my exes is that we just like took the cable car like 3 times, like back and forth, like all day for no reason. I mean, it cost a shit ton of money because those things aren't cheap, but it was like, just like, it wasn't like this like out of the box, like crazy thing, but it was super fun and playful. And I'm curious, Jeff, because like I'm not the type of person that has like all these unique hobbies and like does all this like interesting stuff. And like actually I've had great dates that I've just gone to a bar and like talked to someone and it still felt playful to me. And I think I do have a playful side that comes out with certain people, especially. Like what else can be like a way that people can like show their playful side that's not necessarily like an activity?
Well, let me approach it this way. So my friend Desiree taught me this, and Desiree is someone that travels all over the world. She like lives in a van and just travels everywhere. And she learned that she could change her entire day by simply asking the question, how can it get any better than this? And she asked that with like curiosity, like, ooh, how can it get any better than this? Right. And I'll tell you by day today, right? Like I woke up this morning and then I made a TikTok video. Ooh, how can it get any better than this? Ooh, then I hopped on a podcast with this guy from London and we talked about play all day. Ooh, how can it get any better than this? Ooh, and then I got this really lovely Greek salad. How can it get any better than this? Now we're having this conversation.
It can't.
How can it get any better than this?
It's over.
It can't.
This is why we booked you at the end of the day.
The greatest moment of my life is right here. But I think that like doing that type of like momentous, curious way of showing up on the date and being open to what might happen and being open to saying yes and to stuff like, let's do this adventure. Let's do this adventure. Like think about when you've been in flow, right? When you travel and you're open to everything. You're like, yes, I will. Yes, I will have another mimosa. Yes, I will hop on this moped of this stranger. Yes, I will go to this deserted island to this party under the moonlight. And maybe you meet the love of your life because you were willing to say yes to all this stuff. So we have to be willing to embrace our curiosity and the experimentation of it, and also just be open to being vulnerable.
I actually think that is one of the best ways to approach playfulness on a date is pretending you're a tourist in your own city. I think that's like the best mindset. The shit I've bought on trips and paid for like Segway rides, I would never fucking do that in San Francisco. I'd make fun of tourists who take those Segway tours around the city and like buy
but
magnets.
They're probably super fun.
I've actually done that, and I went on a date in one of those yellow moped things, and we drove up to McDonald's and we got something to eat, even though we couldn't reach But I also have something called the Ratchet Tour that I used to do in San Francisco. Oh, do you want to know the Ratchet Tour? So the Ratchet Tour is fascinating. We start off at Sweet Maple, where they have the $1 million bacon. I don't know if you guys know that.
For anyone not in SF, that is just like one of those like brunch spots that like the lines around the block.
I've actually never been
every day.
Yeah, I've never been.
No, but it has $1 million bacon. But if you can't go there, then go to the Sycamore, down in the Mission where they just have bottomless mimosas, right? So we have bottomless mimosas, hang out, and then we go to Dolores Park. We get some ice cream, and then we go into the park and we look for the Coconut Man and the Truffle Man. And if y'all don't know, in San Francisco, there's a guy named the Truffle Man, beautiful black man, just this amazing man. And he carries around these weed truffles in a golden urn, in a bronze and golden urn, which he gives out to people. And then behind him is usually the Coconut Man, which is a guy that chops coconuts, has you drink half of it, and then you pour rum in the other half. And you just walk around, feeling a little high and having your coconut rum. And you just walk through the Mission trying out all the restaurants. And I call that the
basically
ranch.
just get shit-faced is basically what you're saying.
Get drugged up and shit-faced.
Hey, you know what? Those have been great dates I've had, so I'm not knocking you on that one.
I also like the acid trip where you just take some acid and end of story. Best date ever.
But bringing it back to PG World for anyone that doesn't want to do acid.
Fuck PG World.
But I think what I like this point about curiosity, because I don't think it needs to be this like extravagant adventure. I think that's great. Like, go for it if you want to, by all means. But if you don't, just be curious even in the conversation with someone. Like, you can literally be sitting at the same place and have a playful conversation and a not playful conversation. It doesn't need to be like some major adventure either.
And you can even have a conversation that changes your life, even if you are never going to be with that person again. Like, that's the possibility with each and every conversation that we have. That's exciting. Like, I love people. I love hanging out with people because there's always this moment where they might say something that sparks an idea that creates, like, I don't know, some video that makes me like love life more. Like, I don't know where this shift is going to happen. And I think when we show up with that like level of also gratitude that we have the opportunity to be on these dates. I mean, by the way, have you talked to some people that have been together for a really long time? They are not a lot of them are having that much fun. I mean, let's just be honest. Everyone thinks the grass is greener on each side, but I think, for a lot of people that are single, we're like, oh, I just need to be with somebody, but maybe you don't. Let's not force it just for the sake of forcing it. Like, you have the freedom right now to like connect with anybody in the world and go anywhere that you want. No one is holding you back. That is a luxury. So explore that because you don't know how long you're going to have.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think the side on the long-term relationship, because I did actually want to touch on that I think you could definitely bring play to that too, right? I think I read somewhere that one of the top reasons that people got divorced is they stopped dating each other and they stopped being curious about each other's lives. So I guess like from your perspective, like what are some ways that people could bring play even if they've been with their partner for 10 plus years or whatever that might be?
My recommendation is go have more adventures. Go have more adventures separately as well as together. Because when you have adventures separately, then you can actually come back and tell each other about that. Because a lot of times we're like, well, let me tell you about it. You've already told me that story. I've heard that story like 1,000,000 times. Like, oh, do something new. But when you're willing to like, and this is part of also allowing each other in a relationship to do you, right? Do you, boo-boo. And you're like doing these adventures and coming back, you're growing from each and every one of those risks. So go have adventures together, create new experiences together, but also give each other the freedom to do that. Someone else watch the kids, go do your adventure, or go on like a trip in your town and pretend like you're a tourist. Like it's a lot of times it's just reframing small things that you want to do instead of just like mailing it in and being kind of lazy about it, being like, well, let's just watch Netflix again. Do we really want to watch Netflix again?
Speaking of Netflix, there's a really bad movie out there, but I actually like the premise. It's called Yes Day with Jennifer Garner. Have you seen it? It's a really bad movie, but the premise is she and her husband have been married for so long. They have a bunch of kids and things are getting like not fun. And there's a trend going around at school that there's a yes day where one day you say yes to everything. The parents say yes to the kids say yes to the parents, and they have this fantastic, really memorable day where nobody gets in trouble, but you just start expanding outside of your creative comfort zones. And I think that's something that couples can can do too. What if you give each other a yes day once a month and you just say yes and you just keep building upon the yes, yes, yes?
I love that. Or why don't you as a couple go get lost? Like go get lost in the city, hide your phones, or you can't pull out your phones and you got to get back some way. Like there's some adversity in each and every one of the adventures. Like when you go travel and you have those like horrible experiences of like, oh my gosh, and we couldn't get on that plane and couldn't get on that plane. Later on you talk about that with a certain level of like gravitas and like excitement. So I think that's the part is simply asking yourself and your partner each and every day, hey, when was the last adventure we went on? What type of adventure would you want to go on? And do you want to go on this adventure with me?
I like that.
Well, this has been so many insights in this whole thing. I mean, we're going to kick off some takeaways, but I think the biggest one for me is that, like we always say that just treat each date as getting to know a new person. I love this, like, expectations is the joy of, or the thief of joy. Is that the quote? Did I get that right? Okay. I think that is like something to live by. And I love this idea of too, like being grateful that like, I am going to spend an hour plus with this person. Like, let's make it fun. Like, let's enjoy this time. And it really is a shift in mindset and how you approach things. And I think it's not like, you can't be deep because you're playful. It's not an either or. It's how can our play mesh together? And I think at the end of the day, really what we're trying to do here is form memories together. Whatever that might be. And like that could be an adventure, it could be an activity, it could be an inside joke, it could be whatever it is. But that's how you bond to people, is when you have a shared experience. And when you just go on these dates and there is no shared experience, that's when it's meh, right? Jeff has something to add.
You just inspired something. You inspired this other thing. No, something you said was just resonated with me. So thank you so much, Julie. No, it reminds me of, there was this talk from Shia LaBeouf, and he was at Oxford Union, and he was talking about when people want selfies, and he knows when people want to take, when they're like just asking questions to build up for the selfie so they can ask the selfie question. And he knows when they are giving, where there's an exchange and it's just like, hey, we're hanging out, we're connecting. And then all of a sudden we decide, hey, let's take a selfie. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Right. And I think we have to be aware, even with ourselves when we're in dates, what do we do? Are we just thinking about what we can get?
Interesting.
Or are we thinking about what we can give, and how, even if this date doesn't end up to be the love of your life, how you can also impact that person right now in that conversation. There's something that you might spark with them so that they actually realize the thing that makes them come most alive. Like, again, that's part of the adventure. That's part of being in the moment, instead of being like, when we're in the take mode, we're like, okay, how much do you make? Like,
what are you giving me?
What does your 401k sound like? Like we can feel it. We can feel when the person is taking, feel it. And that is what makes it like, like what do you want from me? And when we're having more shared humanity, which I'm really hoping we have in the post-pandemic world, we see more people as like human beings and not as just something that is filling a role from
you. Just triggered my last takeaway, is like not just looking at like dates as an adventure, but your whole dating journey as an adventure. Like, I think if you can reframe it and think about like, I think that's like so key. Like, instead of like a date not working out, it's like, okay, who's next? What's right around the corner? Like that curiosity of not just the dates and the people, but your own dating life, and looking at it as like, a play experience in itself. What a better mindset than being like, oh, another person ghosted me. Like, how is that going to really help you?
Right. And simply asking the question when someone does ghost you, something like that, asking how can it get any better than this? And being curious about it and see what happens, because it's going to get better.
Get worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it can, but
it could.
But it'll be really fun. It'll be really fun.
But let's not focus on the worst case scenario.
About the positive.
Right, let's be like,
they ghost you twice. How can it get better than this?
Like, that guy only had one eye. Okay, whatever.
Right. Let's get curious. Let's cover your one eye. It's a game. Yeah, make a game. I love it. We're riffing. We get it now. We're play experts now. My biggest takeaway is you inspired me for this, Jeff. And feel free to take this for yourself too. Play is bring a pebble to the river. All you need to do is bring the pebble and you throw it in the river, and you don't know what ripple effect it's going to cause. You don't know which way the pebble will go, but all you need to do is bring the pebble. We don't need to know the big picture of how it's going to affect the river. You just have to bring that one thing to the table. So I like this idea because it also goes into, this analogy is really synonymous with what we've been talking about is this yes and. We keep building. And the best times I've had on dates and with my current partner is when we keep saying, should we try it? Yes. Should we do that? Yes. Should we do this? Should we go here? Let's do it. And it becomes so fun, and you just keep adding and building on top of each other's requests and questions. And that river just keeps flowing, and the ripples keep getting bigger and bigger to bigger waves. And that's how I see play. But you just need to bring in that one little pebble. Ooh. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's an activity, and just see where it goes.
And I love when Yue said that. She said it with a little mischief. Should we try it? Should we? And then the energy, do you feel the energy? Like you can feel it, right? We know it. I think a lot of times we ignore it because we're like trying to be normal. And it's like, no, all of the possibilities are in the weird. You know, Will Smith, what it says this, on the opposite side of fear is like everything you've always wanted. And it's just like, yo, so then let's go there. Let's go to that deep end of the pool and just see what happens.
I think tone can be playful. I mean, I think that's like at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be, I love this takeaway of the pebble because it's like what we're saying is, I think sometimes we get in our heads that play needs to be this like huge activity and it's like a lot of pressure, but it just needs to be something small that we see the reaction and if we both jive from it and then it will just naturally happen. It doesn't need to be like you coming to a date with a deck of cards ready to go.
Right.
Like if it goes that way, great. You know,
I'm going to be a magician. Let me fan for you.
Exactly.
No, because and what you said also is like play is just you being you. It's you being you.
You wearing your Lego bow tie is a great example of a pebble because if you did that on a date, it might have inspired me to bring my own bow tie, which is actually my dog's bow tie. And then we would have a conversation about that. Maybe we bring our bow ties and we wear it to Whole Foods and then we barter our bow ties for our oranges. I don't know.
Right. Or someone that doesn't want to bring a bow tie, they could see the bow tie and they'd be like, oh, I used to play with Legos. And then it goes like into another conversation. It could just never know. Spiral in so many ripple effects in different directions.
Ripple effect. I love that a lot. I just love this idea of keeping things playful. And that doesn't mean keeping things surface level or superficial. Nope. It just means infusing the fun back into dating. I think it's about time. Dating should be fun.
Right. Especially on the early stages, before shit gets difficult. Like, you know, if it's not fun then, how is it ever going to be fun?
And I love this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert.
How many quotes do you have in your repertoire? I'm just
they're all in my head.
I've counted.
You're not even like reading them. That's the best part.
I've counted 12 already in this episode.
What's crazy was I was on a podcast once where I had to be Elizabeth Gilbert. You had to play a character. That was the podcast, and mine so I had to memorize all of her work. So like now it's just like embedded in my head. But the one that I love is like personal transformation doesn't happen until you get tired of your own BS, like your own bullshit. And it's just like, what is the bullshit that you're telling yourself? Like, what is the limiting belief that is holding you back? What's the old story? Like one of my old stories was I was the guy that a woman would date right before she got married.
You're the fluffer. You're the relationship fluffer.
Oh, the fluffer, right. So there's even a term for it, right? And why do I tell that story? Because it actually benefits me. It gives me the benefit of not having to like continue to go out there. And it also makes me look good, right? It makes me look like the hero in my own story instead of just confronting them and be like, is that really true? Like, is that the thing? Like, why am I telling this story to limit myself from what is possible? And I think we a lot of times sometimes say those limiting beliefs because we're just scared. We're just scared we're going to get hurt. And guess what? You are. But also, you also are going to find such love and adventure and all of the joy. And like, that's living. It's both. It's all the sadness, all the angry, all the grief, all the fulfillment, and all the play, all wrapped together like a roller coaster. And that's so much more enjoyable than just, binge watching Netflix till you die. So let's not, I'm just saying, I love Netflix, but
I love this roller coaster analogy too, because sometimes like when you're in the down piece, it can only go up, right? That's what we've been saying. So there's always like something new around the corner if you think about things in this like curiosity, playful mindset.
So Jeff Harry, if people want to find out more about you and your offerings and rediscover your play, how can they find you?
Not play parties, we'll clarify that.
You never know. Hey,
different type of play party.
I don't get down like that, but I mean, hey, you
better
do
not be a limiting belief of yours. You can do it if you want to.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, I got to be open. You're absolutely right. Back to past San Francisco. Power change. Yeah, so you can find me making my ridiculous videos at the handle Jeff Harry Plays, JEFFHARRY PLAYS. And that's TikTok, Instagram, all of them, Medium, all of them. And then you can go to my website, rediscoveryourplay.com. And when you go to it, there's a Let's Play button. And if you click the Let's Play button, I have all these play experiments you can do. And then you can hop on a phone call with me and we can figure out how you can rediscover how dope you are by playing.
I feel like you might be getting a lot of calls.
Yeah. You got 2 calls coming right after this.
We're going to hang up and then we're going to be like clicking that button. Hey, remember us from 5 minutes ago? Okay.
Oh, this is awesome.
Thanks so much for being on our show, for playing with us, letting us play with you. We're going to have you back and you can play with me anytime you want. I'm just going to put it out there.
That sounds so dirty. Just putting that out there.
And I meant it for it to sound dirty. All right, just saying. Just saying. Whenever you're back.
Let me just adjust these glasses.
If anyone's looking for an opening line to show their playfulness, there you go.
Oh, at some point we have to do Julie's thing.
Yeah, that could be a bonus episode.
We got to pay more for that.
You got our business all figured out too.
There we go.
How to upgrade people. So if for anybody listening to this, obviously we'll link all of Jeff's stuff in our show notes. But for us to get fabulous guests like Jeff, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get awesome guests, get awesome content, and create even better episodes for you all. So just a simple click on 5 stars and like a quick line about how awesome we are and how playful we are. How you want to play with us. It will suffice. And I guess we'll just wrap this up. I don't want this to end, but play never ends. So we'll continue this in other ways. We play with Jeff quite a bit on Instagram in our DMs. So
she just keeps saying things. She keeps saying things that are just like digs a deeper hole.
My mind is going in all certain ways that it's going back to the earlier part of our conversation.
And it all circles back. It just circles back.
It all circles back.
It's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. Before we get in trouble, let's wrap this up. Stay dateable. The Dateable Podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. Want to continue the conversation? First, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with the handle @DateablePodcast. Tag us in any post with the hashtag StayDateable, and trust us, we look at all of those posts. Then head over to our website, dateablepodcast.com. There you'll find all the episodes as well as articles, videos, and our coaching service with vetted industry experts. You can also find our premium Why series where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. We're also downloadable for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Overcast, Stitcher Radio, and other podcast platforms. Your feedback is valuable to us, so don't forget to leave us a review. And most importantly, remember to stay dateable.